The Grand Illusion. Some say on IMDb it's The Grand Illusion, or a lot of people just like saying Grand Illusion. Bruce, I'll let you choose how you're going to pronounce this.
I saw the same thing, so it could be either one, as from what I can see. The movie poster I saw just said Grand Illusion, but once again, you see it both ways. There's tons of trivia to go into on this movie, but we'll start with the basics. 1937, directed by Jean Renoir, starring Jean Gabin as Marechal, Erich von Stroheim, very, very famous.
Director.
Director, but also
Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah, Sunset Boulevard, that's what I say. And he's charismatic this as well. There's a bunch of other great characters as well. I believe this is Criterion Spine number 1. I think this is the first Criterion release. I could be wrong, but I thought I read that somewhere.
If you try to buy it right now, I checked, it costs $72 because it is out of print.
Yeah, so this movie, though, is available. You can find it in quite a few different places. You can find it on Criterion Channel. There are different versions as well because it's so old. You can find different versions of it. I found a version on archive.org, which has a lot of old movies. It was a pretty good quality version of it on there as well with the American subtitles. Once again, I was immediately surprised when I started watching this movie that it wasn't this incredibly artsy thing. This is actually a super grounded movie, and it wasn't what I expected it to be. So what's the basic concept? It's World War One. This is filmed between the wars, but the movie is about World War One. And immediately you get some characters that are officers. They have been shot down and they have been captured by the Germans, and they're in a German prison camp for officers. And right out of the gate, you're in a prison camp movie. You're in a prisoner of war movie. I don't know what, I think, Greg, you said you watched this. I don't know what you thought, but immediately I was like, oh my God, The Great Escape took a bunch of shit from this movie. Right out of the gate, though, it's interesting because what this movie
Copy
does...
and paste.
What this movie does, it's very different. You have this very mannered relationship between the Germans and the French and the other people in the camp. There's this artifice of this friendliness. Hey, we're going to let you have, your food that you want. We're going to let your packages come through. We're going to let you do all these things. But the minute they get away from that, there's always the threat that they will be killed or that something bad will happen. This is kind of several movies in one. I won't go through all the plot changes, but let's just say the location that they are in changes. And there are several major plot developments as we follow 3 or 4 main characters and their journey as prisoners and kind of how they are affected by it. And it also really gets into the role of, Grand Illusion, right? It's all about is this society really just a veneer, this honor and all these things that we pretend to have, is that just really a veneer? And underneath it all, is there really some brutality there you don't know about? And this is also seen as a very forward-thinking movie because it predicts some things about the future Nazis. When this is filmed, the Nazis weren't really quite what they were going to become, but this predicts some things, especially in their attitude towards certain races and Jewish people and all this kind of stuff, and how they would give a different level to that. This is quite an excellent movie, I think. This is pretty profound, really rewatchable, I believe. Very different for war movies of the time. It's highly entertaining, but also there's just kind of an underlaying level of realistic kind of sadness to this movie in a lot of ways, and bittersweet element to it. And I love the way that they present the difference between the officers in the German army and the French army and various other army levels that are here too. A couple different things that I discovered, and then I'll see what Greg thinks. One thing is, at certain points in the movie, they talk in English. And I was thinking to myself, why aren't they talking in English? I mean, there's French, there's German, there's all these different languages, and all of a sudden, these French and German people are talking in English. The reasoning was, there's a point where a main character that's German and a main character that is French talk to each other in English. And the reason is, they were doing that because only officers would know other languages, and they didn't want the people around them to know what they were saying to each other. And I thought that was amazing. I did not know that. And the last thing is, apparently this movie and this director were on the most wanted for the Nazis. And when the Nazis came into France, one of the first things they did was to confiscate the prints of this movie and to take them away. And it was thought to have been lost forever. And it was rediscovered fairly recently, a really good print of it. And that's why we have this now.
That's amazing trivia, Bruce. Good job on that. Directed by Jean Renoir. Renoir is also the co-writer of Grand Illusion or The Grand Illusion. Here's a barrier to entry regarding me. I saw this when I was a kid, maybe on VHS. And I thought, oh man, this movie is totally overrated. Now at 50, totally different movie for me. A couple of things that it does as far as the history of cinema. Prison break, prison escape films, probably not in abundance in the year 1937. probably the granddaddy, grandmama of its time. And years later, with The Great Escape and of course Escape from Alcatraz, this is sort of the granddaddy of them all as far as prison break movies. Now there are a lot of themes with Grand Illusion. You can, like Eric says, with the Cronenberg film Crimes of the Future, you can just watch it on a superficial level as a prison film. As far as, will they escape? Will they be killed? Yeah. Where are they going? If they escape, where are they going to go? Are they going to be caught, et cetera, et cetera? So on a completely surface level, like Bruce was saying, it's highly entertaining. The banter among the POWs is great. The conversation between Eric von Stroheim and the French official played by, let me look at him right now, Pierre Fresnay. Excellent performances by both of them. Towards the latter part of the movie, you get to see their interplay on how the duties of an officer and how sometimes they may be at a disadvantage over the common soldier, whether that common soldier be German or French or American or whatever. So it really is, like Bruce was saying, a very layered film. And I was always wondering why Grand Illusion was so beloved. Maybe I was thinking maybe because it was of its time. Well, like Bruce was saying, it's not just of its time. It's a very good movie today. By the way, the reason why Bruce got the Grand Illusion or Grand Illusion was because of what podcast were you listening to, Bruce?
Force 5. They were doing top 5 war movies.
Top 5 war movies at Force 5 movie podcast, hosted by Jason Kleberg. Very, very, really cool podcast. But I was surprised at how much I loved Grand Illusion. I think for me, this is like, I completely agree with you, Bruce. I could see this movie over and over again for the dialogue. There's a very hilarious, entertaining sequence regarding just vaudeville that I think is worth watching. Also, there are some visual standout moments, cinematic moments where the frame stops for a certain reason and you realize that's a bittersweet moment and that is a heartbreaking moment as well. So there are so many things to take out. This is a great war film. This is a great film. This is a classic. Bruce, yes.
Without mentioning it, will we both agree there's a final act in this movie that is surprising, and you wouldn't probably see it in a lot of movies. And the final act in this movie really adds such emotion and depth to this movie that it wouldn't otherwise have.
100%. They go, look, yes, knockout ending. Yeah. And this movie goes in certain places that you don't even, it goes off the track a couple of times and you're thinking, this is weird. I wouldn't be surprised if Quentin Tarantino, when he was a kid, watched this movie and was inspired and he did something like Inglourious Basterds and he realized, oh, I could take a movie this time, set in World War II and just have it go different places. This movie goes different places. This is really a movie that is worth watching all across the board. This is a must-see for cinephiles. Bruce, your rating on Grand Illusion?
We're doing it all night tonight, right? This is a 5-star classic. It's a classic. People already know it's a classic. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But sometimes you see classics and you're like, okay, but it doesn't really work for you anymore. This movie works.
5-star classic for me too. 5 stars. Sometimes you'll say 5-star classic and then not. Let's face it. How many times have we honestly seen Citizen Kane? I loved Orson Welles. I've maybe seen it twice. I could see this movie 5-6 times. I'll be fine. Yeah, it's highly rewatchable. Eric Holmes would definitely love Grand Illusion if he saw it. That's it.